I'm Bae.
And I'm Morgan, and we are the Body Acceptance Babes.
This is the podcast where we talk about how to accept the body you have, let go of societal expectations to change the way you look, and to just be who you were born to be from the inside out.
You'll hear about how we embrace body neutrality, reject diet culture, and learn how you can too. Now on with the show.
Hello, Morgan.
Hello, Bae. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
So excited to be here for episode 5.
Yeah, I know, me too. It's going to be a doozy, everyone, but it's going to be
great. Buckle up. It's going to be a ride.
Yeah, exactly. So what happened to you? Did anything happen to you this week in the body acceptance, diet culture world that we live in?
This is part of my body acceptance journey. It's definitely something that has helped with my self-love. So hopefully the listeners can relate. Back in April, I had a really bad haircut, and I had been experimenting with different hairstyles to complement my body love, body acceptance journey, and it's taken 5 months for my hair. Yeah, I was at a point where I was like, I love this look, this represents me, and it was not about, does this haircut make me look fatter? It was just does this haircut represent who I am as a person? And I found it, and then I got it bad. I saw a different hairdresser, and she had a different vision than I did, and she chopped it off. And it took 5 months now to grow out. And last week I have a new hairdresser because we moved, and she understood my vision, and I'm back now to loving my hair. Yay!
Yeah,
it does
awesome.
So much for my body acceptance, like body love, to look in the mirror and be like, yep, and like be able to wear my hair in more than one way, and be able to like, I don't know, just be able to like throw it up or not throw it up, or like wear it down and just be comfortable, and to like how it looks in the mirror. It really helps me like what I see and it's just a simple little thing. Oh, it's just hair will grow. And that's what everyone keeps saying. When I had the bad haircut, they were like, oh, well, I don't think it looks bad, but it's not about anybody else than how you feel. And
I get that.
Yeah. Cause like other people won't see what you see when you look in the mirror, but when you have a haircut that you love and a color that you love, and you can look in the mirror and be like, I love this. It just helps put you in such a good place. And after getting that cut this week and getting back to loving my hair again, I just feel like I'm back, guys. I'm back.
I kind of have, I have a similar story, but it's not the one I was going to tell. But I got some blonde like highlights in my hair over the summer, and I decided to go blonde. And what I didn't realize is because I'm outside a lot, it went really blonde, and it started to not feel like me. I'm normally a redhead. So I went to the salon a couple of weeks ago and was like, put my hair back to red. And they did, and I love it. It's the same feeling of like, okay, I'm myself again. I feel like myself again. Yeah, so that's not the story I was going to tell, and I can still tell the one I was going to, but that I can relate to that for sure, because it makes you, it can make a big difference when you feel more like yourself. So, because it was just part of my identity for so long, having red hair. So to have it not be red was weird. I mean, I've always wanted to have blonde hair, so I think it was good that I had that experience, and now I know what it felt like, and now I don't want to do it again. So So I totally get that. I'm happy being a redhead, and I'm happy with the way my hair is now. So yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, the story I was going to tell was a very positive one too. I went out for lunch with my mother yesterday, and sometimes when I'm around certain people, I get nervous about ordering food. It's also part of my journey with my eating disorder and stuff. And so my mom ordered first, and she ordered, we were both gonna have pizzas, like individual pizzas. So she ordered her pizza first, but I really wanted a salad with my pizza. I wanted us to start with a salad, But I was like, oh, if she's going to judge me if I order more than one thing. Like all those thoughts entered into my head. And then I went, you know what? I really want the frickin' salad. So I ordered the pizza, and then I said, can I please also start with a small Caesar salad? And they were like, yep, absolutely. And it was one of the best Caesar salads I have ever had, and I'm so glad I ate it. And I just was kind of like, this is stupid. I shouldn't care what other people think about what I'm eating, because they're not me. They're not my body. My body was craving that salad for a reason. It needed the vegetables. It needed something in it. I don't know what, but it wanted that. And so I listened to it. So that was like, that to me is like a win. I was like, yay.
Yes.
So just, dear listeners, I also have, even though we're in this podcast, we're both still on this journey, and I still have negative thoughts that pop in, and I still judge myself too, and I'm working on it. So that was a little win.
It's a process.
Yeah.
Deconditioning.
What
happened growing up, which is our topic.
Which is our topic. Yeah. Yes.
So, as you read in the episode title, we were talking about food expectations from our past and how it affects our current relationships with food.
Yes. Yeah. And it's a doozy. It's a doozy of a topic
really
for
is.
us, and also for probably for you guys listening, because you guys might have some similar be able to relate to it. So hopefully it's not super triggering, but I think it's something that it's worth talking about, because we're also going to talk about how to work through those thoughts and give you guys tips on how to deal with the things that come up. So, and how to uncondition ourselves. So even though if you can make it through the episode, I guarantee you by the end of it, you'll have some ways on how to cope with these certain things that are coming up.
Yes, absolutely. So the first thing we were going to talk about is, let's talk about your story. Let's talk about, when you're afraid that someone else is going to judge your food choices, because maybe that has happened to you growing up.
Absolutely. And it has happened. We're going to bring back the Aunt Marge character. It's happened by Aunt Marge. It's happened by Aunt Marge. It's happened by my parents. My parents have come a long way, and they're amazing people, and I don't want to harp on them this entire episode, but it's happened. They were brought up in the diet culture world too. So it's happened with them. So because of that, because of what I've experienced in my past, that is one of the main reasons why I was nervous to order that extra item, in front of my mother. And my mother didn't react poorly at all, didn't even say anything. I asked her if she would like to, actually the server asked her if she would like a salad as well. She said no. When the salad was put in front of me, she kind of looked at it like longingly, and I was like, would you like some? And she goes, no, they put Parmesan cheese on it, and I don't like Parmesan cheese. And I was like, okay. But like, I was willing to share it with her, right? But she didn't react poorly at all. In fact, it was something, just in my own head, but that just in my own head didn't come from nowhere, right? It came from an experience. So like I've definitely had family in various situations, and extend, friends of family, whatever, judge society at large, whatever, judge what I'm eating, right? And I've been told I have too much on my plate or not enough. I've been, told that I don't need to have X, Y, Z, right? Like those thoughts stick in your mind, and your body, when you're anxious about that, just wants you to be safe and free of like ridicule. So I think that's why that's why I was nervous. So, but what the point that I made in the beginning, at the top of the episode, was like, I'm trying to overcome those thoughts because the more important thing to do is to listen to my body. So that is what I needed to do in that moment. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks or says. If you can get to a place where you're like, my body needs this, it's asking for this for a reason, right? Like I'm desiring this food item for a reason. If you can get to that place where you tell yourself that, then it's easier to overcome. And it's funny because you can kind of turn around, like one of the things, it's it's kind of down the diet culture conversations growing up, and it's kind of down on the list of our topics. But like, I remember reaching for a cookie, and my mother saying, do you really need to have that cookie? And I feel like if she had said that about the salad, I could honestly say, yes, I do need the salad. Because my body is asking me for the salad. And you know what I mean? Like, so that's something that, is very, you know what I mean? Is just like my body was asking for the cookie, Yeah. Maybe I needed the sugar in it. Maybe my brain was fried and I needed the sugar to boost me, you know what I mean? Like, maybe I needed the carbohydrates for energy, maybe like, et cetera, right? Like,
and there's other thoughts too of like, sometimes maybe you won't be judged for a salad, but you would be judged for a cookie.
Exactly.
And like, that can come from any place. And then on the flip side, I have certain family members where they expect you to eat more. And they expect you to have, growing up, we have family friends who are Italian. And I remember going there and not being hungry, not wanting to eat a lot, and them pushing more food on me. Because
it can be a cultural thing too. It can be a cultural thing too. Yeah.
But it's those kind of things growing up that make you question, like, oh, should I be eating more? Or like, I have certain friends and family who I know if I go out to eat with them, I typically end up eating more than I would with other people, because it's like you learn through eating with certain people what they expect of you.
Yeah, and what their attitude is around food. And
so like going out with your friends, you might be, who are always on a diet, you might be more likely to eat less because you don't want to be judged. You don't want to be, your habits would shift because of, you don't want to be ridiculed. You don't want to be seen as the fat friend because society has made that to be a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
Yes.
But I feel like all those experiences growing up, even if you have friends who, like, if you and I went out to eat, I don't know now I don't care what other people think. One of my biggest my biggest ways I overcame this is learning that someone else's opinion of me is none of my business. And their thoughts and opinions are their business. And my business is to worry about what I need and what I think and what makes me happy. And listening to my body and listening to my stomach and knowing when I feel full. And how to get around that, how to get around under eating and overeating is kind of planning ahead in a sense of like, if I look at the menu and I'm like, oh dang, that chocolate torte sounds next level. I really want that. So I'm gonna maybe eat less and like save my dinner plate and then have the dessert because I know I want dessert. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you don't want to be too full for dessert. You want to enjoy the dessert and be at a comfortable level at the end of the whole meal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how I came around it. Yeah. Around other people's opinions of what I would be eating.
That's a really good point. And I try to tell them like, when I am worried about being judged, it's like if my mother, I don't think she's done this at all, but if she were to go home and talk to my father to be like, can you believe Morgan had a salad with lunch? Like, it's like, it's kind of like, if I'm their topic of conversation, then so be it, because you know what I mean? That's on them kind of thing. Like, I have more important things to, worry about and do and talk about, like everything in this podcast. So so, and I think it's a good point that you mentioned, because that's one of our main first points, like trauma around overeating and undereating, because I know, like one of the first points is trauma around throwing out food or not being able to waste food, growing up, and how that shaped our. So I don't know if you want to talk a bit about that.
Yeah.
In your house, like, how was it in your house? Did you get the whole like the children are starving in Africa?
100%.
And I don't make fun of that lightly. That is horrible that's happening. But like, it's just the voice is the Aunt Marge, nagging you.
Yeah. They absolutely. I was not allowed. Like, I had to eat everything on my plate. I couldn't leave food on my plate, which is crazy. And because we couldn't throw food away because food is expensive, and you know, you can't. The other thing about that too is like, if there was, let's just say, 3 pieces of cheese in a container in the fridge and I only wanted 2, I would have to eat 3 or leave them in the fridge, because I wasn't allowed to just leave 1 in the fridge, because why didn't you just eat it? Yeah.
That's so interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like
it's taking up space, and it like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I've had to shift a lot of these beliefs as an adult, because my husband doesn't feel that way. But growing up, it was always why are you leaving this in the fridge? Like, there's only 1 here. Why didn't you just eat it? And it's just like, well, I didn't want it, but I didn't want it was not an acceptable answer. It felt like it wasn't an acceptable answer. And if it was an acceptable answer, it wasn't like relayed to me.
Right.
Because it was almost like Aunt Marge's belief was the belief that I needed to adopt, and my belief wasn't okay.
Right. And I think the thing, like with Aunt Marge's nagging around that, what that actually really does is create fear around like food scarcity. So it's like, you're like, oh my goodness, I must eat everything on my plate, because if they're telling us that food is expensive and all this stuff, then it's almost like in the back of your mind, and this is the way human beings are meant to be, like, it's a survival thing. In the back of our minds, we're thinking we must overeat because we don't know when the next meal is going to be. And that's not necessarily true. I don't think either of us have had an experience where we haven't had meals when we've needed them, even though money has been tight. But I mean, I can't speak for you 100%, but I'm thinking that you haven't had that experience.
No, I haven't.
No, and neither have I. Like, and the point is, but when someone is harping on the cost of food and how it's basically making it seem that it's not available, then and it's, you know, it's this big thing, then our bodies are designed to keep us alive, and we'll go, oh my God, food scarcity, and we'll want to eat more, or just accept the Aunt Marge's comment about eating more, because because it literally goes, well, I want to make sure that you're fed enough, that you have enough food, that you know what I mean, that because if food is really expensive, then, well, what if we don't have it next meal? Like, even though, like, statistically, like, life dictates that we've always had it, it doesn't matter. Like, our brains are always going to try to protect us, right? Yeah. So, but if we view food as like, keep as much or as little in the fridge as you want, it's available all the time. And we are very fortunate to live in a culture where it is available all the time. And you and I are very fortunate financially to be able to say we can have food whenever we want. And this might not be the same for everyone. I don't want to generalize that, but like, if we say it's available, then we're less likely to overeat as well. Like, in terms of, we get to eat and not eat whenever we want.
Yes.
So,
and like, if you don't want to eat everything on your plate and put it aside, because not everyone has the same capacity in their stomach, and not like, some people like eating big meals, and some people like eating smaller meals. And if you don't want to eat everything on your plate because you're not hungry anymore, and you put that plate aside, and an hour later you're like, I'm still hungry, that's okay. Because when I was a kid, we were taught that you have to eat everything on your plate, because if you're hungry in an hour, you're screwed. Like, you're not getting more food.
You're not getting anything.
Yeah. But my body operates, since I've been on this intuitive eating journey, I've learned that my body operates better with smaller meals, and that's just what works for me. But I was never allowed to do that or explore that growing up, because the hard part is, when you're a child, is you have to eat the way you're told. And not every child, but in my experience, you have to eat everything on your plate. You have to and you have to eat now, because this is dinner time, even if you're not hungry. Because, like, I remember coming home from school and being hungry and having a snack, and then still being hungry, and then being told I can't eat, that I have to wait for dinner, and then I had to wait several hours for my next meal. And then I would sometimes overeat because I was so hungry.
I was often really hungry when I got home from school too. And I find that with Evie as well, my daughter. So, and that's the thing. I'm trying to unlearn that behavior. While I do expect that she tries what I put in front of her, like, so say you don't have to like it and you don't have to eat it, but can you take one bite and see if you like it? If you don't like it, no problem. But and if she doesn't, like, there'll be days where she devours her dinner and it's all good, and there'll be days when she doesn't eat anything. And and then she asks for a snack an hour later, but I give her the snack, because what's the alternative? Starving her? Like, I'm not going to do that. So, and I think and sometimes she is hungry because she didn't eat very much during school or whatever. She's starving when she first gets home. Well, if she's starving when she first gets home at 5:00, because we have her in aftercare, that's when she has dinner. I just serve her dinner when she's hungry. Like, okay, you're hungry now, I'll make you dinner now. Like, why does it have to be at 6 or 6:30? Like, why does it have to be at a set time? Yeah. If she's hungry now, she eats when she's hungry, right? Like, and that's teaching her to listen to her body. That's something that we didn't learn, right? We learned that we had to eat at a certain, rate. And so for me, I operate really well with the 3 meals a day, but occasionally, depending on what I'm doing, I might need a snack outside of that. And I accept that's, or if my dinner was lighter, then sometimes I need a snack before I go to bed. And that's because otherwise I wake up in the middle of the night hungry and then I can't sleep. Yeah. So I acknowledge that, but that's okay. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. The 3 meals a day thing is also, it's if I make sure I eat 3 meals a day, then I know, eating disorder wise, it doesn't start the starvation mode if I skip breakfast, for example. So I always make sure to eat. Even I can't eat breakfast first thing, so breakfast for me has to be later on in the morning, but I still make sure I eat 3 meals, like, so there's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But so it's everyone's different, and I think it's really good. It sounds like we're both working towards getting out of that conditioning that we've been taught by society. You know what I mean? And eating when you want to, and when you're hungry. And like, if like, I don't know, I can't imagine, maybe it's just a different type of parenting, but I can't imagine telling my daughter, no, you're not allowed to eat, when she's saying, Mommy, I'm hungry. Like, you know what I mean?
I know.
Like,
it's like, you think of it now as an adult and you're like, how is that okay?
Yeah, exactly.
If a child says they're hungry,
like, it's one thing if they're going, I'm hungry, and you're cooking it and it's going to be ready in 5 minutes, but it's another thing if it's like you're not planning on serving that meal till 7:00 at night and they're hungry at 5. Like no, they need something now.
Yeah. But that was also, like, growing up, it was like, well, you have to, like, fit into these parameters because this is what I do. Yeah. And it's like, from that perspective of like, well, you're my child, so you should be like me. Yeah. And like, you that's not always the case. Yeah.
Yep. I had that too. And it's like, this is when we have dinner and this is but luckily, and it's like, my husband and I like eating after she's gone to bed. We're able, and I like it because I'm able to focus on my food a lot easier, focus on listening to my body, and not focus on parenting my kid. And I get to enjoy a meal with my husband. So we can feed her whenever we want, whenever she's hungry, because we eat differently. Yeah. And sometimes we will eat meals together. I'm not saying we don't, but like, it's usually like a brunch breakfast thing and than a dinner, because it's just easier. But
you're so much more distracted.
Yeah, exactly. You are. Yeah.
Because she's like, I'm hungry, or I want more, or like,
or I don't want this, throws it on the ground, or like, and you have to be like, don't throw anything on the ground. Like, it's like, it's just, it's very like, you're not focusing on what you're doing. So, and parents, I think a lot of parents forget that's the thing. Yeah. You can get distracted, from eating when you're trying to parent at the table.
Yeah, because if you're not focused on yourself and your body signals, you're going to either over or under eat, because as a society, it's become normal for people to eat while they're doing something else. Yes. And that's a very Western thing, because I know, like, in Europe, they take breaks and they like focus on their meals, and they take hours to like eat a meal together. And so it's like different in North America than it is in Europe. Yeah. But it's definitely, it's common to like eat breakfast while you're watching the news, while you're like scrolling through social media. And it's like when you're distracted like that and you're not focused on your body, you can't hear the cues and you can't.
Yeah. And I'm guilty of that too. Like when my husband's away, I often eat by myself. I usually have the TV on, or I have, because it feels lonely, right? It feels lonely to sit by myself. But yeah, you have to kind of make extra sure that you're listening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And kind of pay extra attention if you have something going on in the background. Absolutely. Like, and I do, when he's home, we don't have anything on, but like, but yeah, it's interesting. Like, and, you know, with those messages of, you know, I don't know, but you might also had like, you have to eat everything on your plate. Yeah. And then, so then one of the next points is we had prioritizing physical discomfort over food waste. Yes. And it's, to me, this is insane. And I just recorded a TikTok about it, actually, about like reminding you that if you order sushi to your house, it's not all you can eat. You don't have to, you can throw it out. You can save it for later. You don't have to eat it all at once. But if you want to, you can. But it's like, it's a similar, like, it's like, you know what I mean? It's that like, but there's the mentality in your house with other food that it's all you can eat. You know what I mean? All you can eat, meaning if you leave anything, you have to pay for extra for it. And it's like why do we have that mentality with food, right? At all? Yeah. Right? Like
I have a similar sushi story.
Tell your sushi.
Yeah. We went to sushi, and at all you can eat sushi, you have to pay for the extra rolls that you don't eat. Yes. And we ordered sushi for 3 because we were supposed to have someone join us, and that person was unable to join us last minute, and we had already ordered enough food for 3 people because we knew that third person was going to be late. So we ordered all the food so it would be there when they got there. And then they were like, actually, I can't come. And instead of just paying for it and like making that person pay us back because they weren't able to come, we suffered and ate it all because it's like, well, we paid for this, therefore we have to eat it. And I remember feeling the most discomfort I've ever felt from food that day. Like I was so full and so uncomfortable, and it just it goes along with eating and it goes along with the whole you have to eat everything on your plate thing. It's like, yes, food costs money. Yes, we don't want to waste food. I don't ever want to be wasteful. But there are certain situations where like you are not a garbage can. No. And like there are certain situations where like, you know, maybe there's not a lot of extra money to throw around, but like when someone last minute says they can't come, you gotta prioritize your physical comfort over, you know.
Absolutely. And your health too, because I feel like eating that much probably, you know, was not good for your digestive system in that moment. And like, but no, for sure. And even like, I remember, you know, like the comment about, oh, there's starving children other places in the world. It's like, you know, I remember when I growing up, I remember as a kid being like, okay, well, you can wrap it up and send it to them. And it was my snide remark back when someone would tell me, to eat everything on my plate. But really what I was trying to say was, we can't give this food to them. Yeah. So what is the point of me eating it all?
Yeah, like, exactly.
It's not, there's no way to transport it to them. There's no way to, you know what I mean? Like invite to donate it, to invite them over to eat. Like, you know what I mean? And so maybe we need to focus on, like, I'm all for, like, I'm not a huge leftover person and I'm the first one to admit it, but I will try to repurpose food. So for example, if I'm making a turkey for like, during COVID, I made a turkey for, you know, one Easter, and it was just my husband and I and my daughter, and I repurposed the turkey meat and made different things with it, so that it didn't go to waste, so that it was able to stretch for various meals, and it was great, and I'm glad I did that. But like, so I think like let's focus on doing that instead of judging people for their actual portion sizes, in the heat of the moment. But I've thrown out, and also I have a very, you know, the phrase, my eyes are bigger than my stomach. I always put more on my plate than I can eat. 90% of the time, but I'm very good now of stopping and being like, that's enough. I'm done.
Yeah.
And then I will either save it or it gets composted. Right. So
yeah. One thing that I've tried doing, because like I am having a really hard time not finishing everything on my plate because it's so ingrained from childhood to eat everything on your plate and don't waste and blah, blah, blah. I often do the same thing as what you just described, where my eyes are always bigger than my stomach. Yeah. And what I've been doing is consciously either taking a smaller plate or consciously putting less on my food, less on my plate, knowing I can go back and get more, or like knowing that like I can always make more food, and like it's hard. It's so hard.
I almost do the opposite to get over what you're saying. Is I put more food at the beginning of my eating disorder behavior. I would put more food than I knew I could physically eat. I would do it on purpose, and then I got used to leaving it on my plate, and then I would eat it for leftovers or whatever, or like give it to my husband, or you know what I mean. But it's almost like you can do that, or you can do the opposite. Like you can just put like, so then you have to get to a point where you have to listen to your body because you can't physically eat that much, right? But I've gotten a lot better at listening. Like, so those are two different, completely separate examples, but to like do the one that works for you. But on how you can get over that, you know, that I guess that voice that's telling you to finish your plate.
Which all kinds of translates to overeating. Yes. And I think one of the things that happens when you overeat is you bypass your body's natural cues. Yeah. And you're using your eyes to eat instead of your feelings in your stomach. Yeah. And the whole purpose of leaving stuff on your plate and it's taking not smaller meals is learning to listen to your body. It's getting you back to that natural state of listening to yourself over listening to the voices in your head of Aunt Marge telling you to eat everything on your plate.
Absolutely. It's basically it's tuning out the Aunt Marge, and it's not because you want to lose weight that you want to tune out the Aunt Marge. It's so that you don't feel uncomfortable, and you can go back for seconds and
thirds, fourths, whatever you feel like,
whatever you want, like. Yeah. And that's the thing too. Like, you know, sometimes I've made a meal for my husband and I, and I've kind of realized like, oh, this isn't a lot of food. And then he usually reminds me, oh, it's no big deal. We can always have a snack later. And I'm like, yeah, that's absolutely true. We can have a snack later. We don't need to eat all of the meal for the rest of the day right now. Right. Like we can eat. And then when we're hungry again, we can have a snack.
Yes.
And absolutely. That's okay. So so like, I think I touched on the, do you need to have that cookie, like kind of mentality, but do you have any diet culture conversations growing up similar to that at all? Or is it similar?
I feel like it was very similar. Yeah. Where like Aunt Marge would ask, like, I also had some relatives like, try and push food on me. Like, even if I didn't want something, I remember being at a party and they cut a big cake and they tried to give me a piece of cake. And I said, I don't want that. And that was not acceptable to Aunt Marge. She pushed that cake in. She looked at me like, how dare you? I'm giving you this. And like pushed it in front of me.
Wow.
Yeah. And like, I mean, in the moment, I'm like, yo, I'm gluten-free. I can't eat the cake. So like I'm allergic. Yeah. Like I literally can't. And then she was like, oh, but like, that's not the point. It's like you don't have to have an allergy to say no to food. Saying no to food is okay. Even if growing up Aunt Marge always was like, well, you're fucking eating this because I took the time to give this to you, so you're gonna eat it. Yeah. Like, you know, like
absolutely.
That's not,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And there was guilt around, I took the time to make this for you growing up, for sure. Even if you didn't like it or didn't, you know, I remember I have a story where, I guess like use Aunt Marge as the example too. Aunt Marge made TV dinners, and it was the grossest thing I had ever eaten. And I just said like, I can't I can't eat this. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, it's, and Aunt Marge was like, well, you're not going to get anything else. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I remember going to my room, accepting the fact that I was going to be hungry, and just accepting the fact that, you know, that was my lot that evening. I was just going to be hungry until the next morning. And then I was doing my homework or something. I was a child. And then lo and behold, another aunt came in and had the secret muffin and like gave me the muffin and was like, it's okay. That was the grossest thing I've ever eaten. And I was like, oh, so I got to have a muffin. And so I didn't end up starving. But it's just funny how I remember, you know, Aunt Marge had threatened, you know what I mean?
You're not going to get anything.
You're not going to get anything else.
Yeah.
And in the end, someone else gave me the muffin, but I was willing to just accept that over forcing myself to eat something I didn't want to eat. I was like,
oh
okay.
My gosh.
But like, it was that it creates so many issues when you don't like, when you try to force things. And it's not like I was being a brat. I really did not like the TV dinner. I really did not like the taste of it. Like, you know what I mean? So I wasn't just trying to be difficult. You know, it was making me gag, I remember. So
wow.
Yeah.
I'm so envious of your story because, like, I feel like because of the you have to eat everything on your plate, because of the we can't waste food, it was so ingrained to me.
Yeah.
I have memories of eating meals that I'm like, this is gross, but I ate it anyway. Yeah. And, like, it almost was like being hungry was not an option because other people are hungry, so we can't be hungry. And so, I forced myself to eat food. I remember this was like more recently as an adult, we tried this gluten-free stuffing in a box and it was so bad. But then my brother was like late to Thanksgiving and we were all mad because he went golfing. And so like his wife was there and my mom was there and we were all sitting around and my brother was late. And I remember we fed him the stuffing as his like punishment. Oh my gosh. But that's just how we were like growing up, where it's like, well, this is bad, but we can't throw it out, so we have to eat it. And like,
right.
I'm so jealous of your like, being able to say like, I'm not eating, this is garbage.
Yeah, and I think, I had the same mentality, but I remember Aunt Marge getting really upset at me, right, for disobeying her, and me getting in trouble, right, because it was almost like, go to your room and you're not having any, like, you know what I mean? So yes,
that's crazy.
while I was able to stick to my guns, you know, it wasn't without punishment, right? So like, and I was seen as a bad child for not eating everything on the plate. So
I have this story that keeps coming up in my mind that I feel like is relevant, and it's not an Aunt Marge. It's like a peer where my friend came over and we were in elementary school. I don't know how old we were. I don't know, grade 4 maybe. I don't know, somewhere in there. And I remember she came over and my mom made sloppy joes, and like I loved, like it was like a treat for us to have sloppy joes growing up. Like I loved them. And so my mom made them, and my friend did not want it at all, but instead of telling my mom that she didn't want it, she made me eat it. And so I ate 2 meals because she said to me like, well, a good friend would do this. And like, and I think I said I don't want it, and then it was like, oh, but a good friend would do this, and like, you know, we can't leave the food kind of thing. And it's like the Aunt Marge thoughts got turned on me by a peer as well. So so I ate 2 as a child, 2 sloppy joes, and like I was super full. But like, and then like, of course we couldn't tell my mom because a good friend wouldn't tell, and like it was that kind of like yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
We're not like, friends anymore.
I think that's a good thing. For the record, I would never make you eat my food if if your mom served me something I didn't like. I would just tell her I don't like it.
But maybe that was something that happened to her growing up, where like she wasn't allowed to say she didn't want it or didn't like it, or she was forced to eat it at home and she didn't want to eat it at a friend's house. I don't know.
I think it was a combination. I mean, for me as an outsider looking in, it was a combination of her not wanting to disappoint your mom and not be seen as a good guest, because good guests, like, So I'm not a fan of cooked mushrooms in things, but I was brought up that if I am served that at someone else's house, I eat it and shut up. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, I would have sat there and ate the thing that I didn't like. You know what I mean? So instead of doing that, she was probably taught that, but just couldn't do it or didn't want to, and just saw a way out, which was you. So,
Actually, that happened to me, the being a good guest thing. It must be ingrained in us from childhood too. And it's crazy that being a good guest translates to food discomfort and like
overeating,
food scarcity,
overeating. Exactly. Yeah.
I remember dating someone, and this would have been in the last 10 years, like dating someone less than 10 years probably. Anyway, and going over to his sister's house, and she made dinner, and he didn't tell her of my food allergies, and I had to eat the food, and I was very uncomfortable, and I like pulled him aside, and I was like, why didn't you tell them? And he's like, well, do you want me to tell them now? And I was like, no, what's she gonna do? Like, that's a terrible guest thing to I felt
in the middle of the
meal was served, and I had no idea what was being served, and it was like I couldn't have dairy, and it was all over, everything was full of cheese, and I was like, I'm gonna be really uncomfortable, and I was like I had nothing to deal with it, like it was really bad. But like being a I really feel like we need to prioritize our own comfort over, air quotes, being a good guest, because like I really feel like that has been ingrained in us from our families growing up, and I feel like we don't want to be an inconvenience, but like we really need to prioritize our own well-being.
And I think ways around that, so to offer suggestions to help with that, is to tell people ahead of time, like if you're hosting a dinner party, or you're gonna have someone over for dinner, like even I mean, now I'm aware of your dietary requirements and all that stuff now, but like even for the longest time, I'd be like, remind me again what, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to make sure I made something that you could eat, or that it was accommodated, and I do that. I do that with people I've had over for years, just to make sure it hasn't changed as well. Like, I have another couple I'm friends with, and I'm like, remind me again what you're not a fan of. You know what I mean? Like, and it's, and they usually say something like, well, it's this, but like, I'll eat it. And I'm like, well, not like, tell me the truth. If you don't like it, I'm not going to make it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I would want to make you something you like. And that's the thing. If you're a host, you're going to want to make them something they like. So it's just tell me what you like and what you don't like ahead of time, and then, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And even if you have to be the one to bring it up, like, I'd love to come to dinner, as long as it's not mushrooms, ha ha ha, and then like make a joke about it or something. And then if they're like, oh, you're not a fan of mushrooms, just be like, no, not really. And then like they'll know not to make that, right? Like,
but I think growing up, the Aunt Marges would be like, oh, you're so picky, or like,
you're so picky, you're being disrespectful. For me, it was about respecting. Like, it's not respectful to not eat what's put in front of you at someone else's house. That's disrespectful. And like, I think that's, and I think like there's ways around it nowadays. Like,
absolutely.
You can talk to, and if you're not close enough with someone to talk about your dislikes and likes when it comes to food, then why are you going for dinner with them?
It's true.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's true.
Like, I don't know. So, because even at weddings, you can be picky about what you want in terms of, or picky.
It's true.
You know what I mean? So,
But I feel like it all comes down to prioritizing your own comfort and your own well-being over the voices of the Aunt Marges.
Yes.
And there are tactful ways to get around being a good guest, and having an open conversation with someone is totally okay. And I think people are a lot more open-minded now maybe than they were when we were growing up. So it's just about breaking that conditioning and ignoring those thoughts from growing up with Aunt Marge.
Absolutely. So, and I'm sure you might have been the same. I mean, I'm not sure, but like, I'm guessing you might have been the same, but like, we were taught things like certain foods are good foods and they're considered dinner, and then certain foods are bad foods and they're considered dessert, or so like you either eat them after dinner or you shouldn't eat them at all. So like, growing up, so like we could talk a bit about that. Like, foods are considered like, foods that are considered healthy and unhealthy, or good and bad. Oh, I'm having a cheat day today. I'm I'm eating these chips. Like, it's like food is given morality when it's not moral.
This could
food.
be even like a whole podcast on its own.
Well, I just wanted to bring it up because it was on the list, but also just because I think that it's good to bring it up. And so, like, how can we get away with not talking about that kind of thing, right? Like,
well, I feel like it comes up when you're growing up with Aunt Marge, who's always on a diet. Yeah. Because then she's always going to be talking about...
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the other thing that's crazy about dieting is that something is bad now, but 5 years down the road, it's good. Like, fat was bad when we were kids, but now with keto,
it's everything was low fat when we were kids, and now now keto is the rage. Yep.
Yeah. So, like, anything that is labeled as good and bad, those labels are not going to stick. The labels are not going to be around. But, like, growing up, you think it's the thing. And, like, sweets and desserts are bad. And, like, salads are good. But, like, it's even, like,
except for if that salad has too much cheese on it or too much bacon, then it's bad.
Yeah.
Like, I'm exaggerating, but yeah.
It's true. Too much dressing. But, like... But that's, everyone has their own labels of what good and bad are, and the Aunt Marge in your life will have ingrained whatever in you growing up, and it might be different from our Aunt Marge, or like,
Yep. Yeah, and so I think it's important to bring it back to neutrality, which we talked about this in an earlier podcast.
Yes.
Body neutrality, it's also the same as like food neutrality. So like, look at the food for what... I don't know. So when I'm trying to get over food neutrality, even with dessert, let's take like a cookie. Like, look at what the ingredients of the cookie are. Where are the nutrients in that? Because there are nutrients in it. It's like even just carbohydrate, sugar, our bodies need that, right? Like, I've said this before, but like when little babies are born, they're drinking formula or breast milk. It's primarily fat and sugar. Our brains need sugar. So the sugar in the cookie isn't necessarily bad. The chocolate chip cookie might have chocolate in it, which has certain antioxidants and whatnot, right? And the carbohydrates in the cookie, like in the fiber in the cookie, like our body needs that to digest. The carbohydrates we need as energy. So this is a way of taking the neutrality away from the cookie. It's not bad. These are the components of it that we need. Our body just needs to function. And we can do that with any food, right? Like,
I think it's also looking at how you feel when you eat that thing. Because it's not just about nutrients. It's also about your mental health. And like, if you're sitting there and you're like, oh, damn, I really want that cookie, and then you don't eat it, you're going to be thinking about that cookie for a long time. But if you eat the cookie and you're like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Like, you're doing good for your body by allowing yourself to like give into as if you're like weak, but like allowing yourself to honor
honoring
feelings and cravings, and
you're listening to your body in a way. You're listening to your body by giving yourself the cookie and not letting you have it, right?
You're turning up the body cues, and you're turning down, like turning up the volume on the body cues, and you're turning down the volume on the Aunt Marge and the societal and the growing up cues. Because it's not that when we were growing up, they were doing a bad job. It's just everybody did the best that they could with what they knew. And maybe that just doesn't align with who you are now. And that is totally okay.
And I think it's important to remember that, that like, well, how do I explain this? It's like, the more you restrict something, the more you're going to want it. And then the more you might overeat it later. Yeah. So like for example, in Intuitive Eating, the book, they talk about how if you're trying to refeed yourself after dieting and you really want chips, for example, is to eat as many chips as you want. Always have chips in the house. Never feel like there's scarcity around chips, and eventually you will see chips as neutral because when your body realizes it can have chips whenever it wants, it won't need chips 24/7 anymore.
Exactly.
And this goes for everything. This goes for anything.
Yep.
So if you've been restricting cookies, let yourself have as many as you want. I guarantee you within a couple of weeks, it won't be a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I remember watching Shonda Rhimes interviewing with Oprah, and she wrote this book, The Year of Yes. And she had this example of like, if you want a piece of chocolate cake, but you have labeled it as bad, and you're like, no, I can't have that, then you're going to keep trying to fill that craving in all these other ways. And you're going to end up eating all this extra food because you're trying to actually fill this craving that you had initially. But because you've labeled it as bad, you aren't filling that craving. Whereas if you just ate that thing in the first place, you wouldn't have eaten all this other stuff trying to stay good, or however Aunt Marge taught you how to be growing up. And if you just have, you might not even eat the whole chocolate cake, but if you wait, you might end up eating the whole cake instead of just like a piece or a bite, or like, you know? So like by allowing yourself to honor these cravings, you remove these labels, and you end up like, it's all neutral. Like it's all just food. But when we have these labels, we restrict ourselves, and it's just
we're putting judgments on food when it's not meant to be judged at all. Because what we're saying is, if I eat this, then I'm bad. If I eat this, then I'm good. It's not the food that's good and bad, it's us. So we need to remove the judgment upon ourselves. We need to remove that completely. Because food is just food. We say that all the time. Food is just food. I feel like we need merch that says food is just food.
Right? Food is just food.
We're going to get some Aunt Marge or something. Merch that says Aunt Marge.
But I feel like what should be good and bad is not the food item. What is good is listening to your body. And what is bad is not listening to your body.
I think, too, I would also like to mention, too, because I don't want people to think, if I listen to my body, then I'm going to be a certain size. You know what I mean? It's okay to also snack because you just want to snack. You know what I mean? Like it's okay to even though you're full or satisfied, it's okay to keep eating because you like the taste of the food. It's, you know what I mean? Like, I just wanted to point that out, because it's not, sometimes we eat, like, in our culture, in our society, we eat for other reasons other than being hungry. And that's okay too if you want to do that, right? So for example, socially, right? People eat for social reasons. People eat just to taste the food, right? And that's okay too. And if you deny yourself those things, then you're going to want to do those more. You know what I mean? So
they talk a lot about that in intuitive eating too.
So, but it's not like saying you can't. I think there's a balance. I think there's just a balance, like a happy medium between, you know, like, it's like, I actually, I've been thinking about this for the past couple of days. I have these like salt and vinegar Miss Vicky chips, and I want to eat them. But I haven't had lunch. So what I plan on doing is eating lunch. And then if I'm still hungry, I will have some chips. And it's not that like, I could just eat the whole bag of chips because that's what I want. But like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a medium between wanting, like, you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, okay, well, I had something in mind that I was going to eat for lunch. It's still appealing to me. I still want to eat it. So therefore I'm going to eat it. And then I'm going to have the chips as well. Right? Like, and so you can kind of juggle it around like that. It doesn't have to be, you know, my body is craving chips, therefore I eat all the chips. You know what I mean? You can do that too. But like, you know, it can be, but the idea is not restricting it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And not like, labeling it.
Labeling it. Yeah.
If you want something, it's okay to have it in your house. But diet culture teaches us that we have to throw it all away, and that we can't have it in our house. And that we have to have the Last Supper before we go on a diet. And like, it's that.
How
kind
many
of
Last Suppers have I had? Holy.
Oh my gosh, same.
Oh my gosh,
so many.
Yeah. So
like, I'll eat all this thing and have a stomach ache because then tomorrow I'm never gonna eat it again. And it's just, it's crazy because like, if that thing is chicken nuggets, for example, if you allow yourself, and like, if it doesn't have a label, it's not good or bad, it's not against your diet or with your diet or whatever, you can have a chicken nugget whenever you want. Maybe you don't want chicken nuggets anymore. Like, it's the labels that make food appealing or desirable or not desirable. Because like, how often do you go on a diet and all you eat is salad, and then you're like, I never want to look at another salad in my life? But like, that's because it's labeled that way. But like, if it's not labeled and you're just like, well, I'm going to eat what I crave. Like, you had a salad with your pizza. Like, you know?
Well, and I associated salad. I used to associate salad with being hungry because I would eat a salad for a meal and it wouldn't satiate me. Like it wouldn't make me feel full. So I didn't eat salad for a long time because I associated it with starving myself. But now I'm able to reframe it, right? Like, I ate it with something, you know, I ate it first and I ate the pizza as well. And, you know, I didn't overeat. I ate, you know, I ate what I wanted to eat. And that's like a, you know, that's a good point as well. Like, it's like if you want the salad with something, or if you want to eat it as a meal because you're not that hungry, go for it.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you're going to be eating a bigger meal later. I don't, like, there's different ways to do it, right? Like,
and that's the thing too, is like, growing up, we get taught a certain way to do things, and then diet culture teaches us another certain way of doing things, and maybe that just doesn't work for us, and that's totally okay. But we have all these voices in our minds, like the Aunt Marge and all the, you know, that teaches us, like, well, we have to label things, and we have to do this, and we have to eat a certain way, and, like, you know, we can't have chips for lunch, like, you know, but, like, I don't know.
But I
Maybe
think
there's
like,
a reason you're craving potatoes and salt.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I'm going to eat them. So, and they're going to taste really yummy. No, like, I think that's the thing. Like, I think, where was I going with this? I think the thing is, like, we have to just this is where I was going with this. It's also okay to try to do things a certain way or try to eat something and have it not work out, or have it, like, you know what I mean? Like, like, for example, say I decide to eat something else and I was like, you know what? I really just wanted the chips. I didn't want to eat something else. Why did I do that? But then that teaches you next time what you need to do, right? So, like, I don't think this is the case this time, but, like, because I do feel like I need something other than chips in my stomach. But at the moment, but, like, but you get what I'm saying? Like, it's like sometimes you can try something and see how it works. And and you basically, the question you're asking yourself is, how did this decision resonate with me?
Yes.
And what is my body saying about it? And if the answer is, oh, my body's saying it was not the best decision, then, you know, for next time you can try a different way and you can make a different decision. So, it is like, I mean, not to use the diet culture-y phrase, but it is kind of like a journey. You're on a journey.
Yeah.
It's like an unconditioning. You're trying to decondition.
You're
I guess
deconditioning.
Deconditioning.
You're deconditioning how you were taught growing up. In some cases, not everyone was raised this way, but in a lot of ways, you're deconditioning the Aunt Marge, and you're deconditioning diet culture, and you're listening to your own intuition.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what it comes down to, with the not wasting food and eating everything on your plate, and do you really need to eat that, and labeling the food. All of that is conditioning. Yeah. And all of that has affected your relationship with food, and all of that can be unlearned, and you can have 1000%. A really good relationship with food and an enjoyable life.
Yeah, it just takes a bit of work getting to sorry, I keep saying unconditioned, decondition. Unconditioned. It's not a word, I don't think, but
I don't know.
I don't know either. But anyway, decondition. It just takes a little bit of work to decondition our brains and stuff.
100%.
But you're right. It is what we're trying to say. It is worth it to do that, because there is a better life on the other side of not constantly dying. Yeah, it's work. But there's a better life on the other side. Letting go of. Also, I think it's really important for not everyone plans to have children or, I don't know, like, have another generation. But for the people that do have children, it's like childhood trauma. It's really great to not expand that into generational trauma. Yes. Like, I want the diet conditioning to end with me, and I want to teach my daughter a new way. So like, not everyone is going to have children, and that's not going to be a thing for everyone, but like, wouldn't that be great if we could do that for the next generation? Like, if they could, they're still going to see some of it, but the stuff that we talked about today about the family and food expectations, it's like, I can control what, like, my daughter experiences, right? Yes. Like, in our household, right?
Yeah.
So I can teach her the new way. I can teach her the way to listen to her body. I can teach her that. So, and I can, by letting go of my own trauma and my own.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we
yeah.
hope for all of you listeners.
Yes.
That you can let go of all of that too. And that we can start a new generation of.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know what to call it.
We're just trying to, of body acceptance, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just trying to be like, I think we're both trying, I mean, what we're doing with this podcast, we're trying to change the narrative, right?
Yes.
So.
Exactly. Of all things related to body acceptance. Because, like, if you, like, food is such a big part of it, I feel.
Yes.
Because if you hate who you are or how you look and you think you have to diet, you can accept your body and you can love yourself and you can have a good relationship with food, and dealing with your family, childhood trauma and everything is just all one piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we talked
pretty
about
good.
everything.
Yeah. On that note, I should go have lunch.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you, listeners, for tuning in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Morgan.
Thank you, Bae.
A wrap on episode 5.
Yes. All right. So, you can visit our social media for more content, and you'll get another episode next week.
Yep. And we'll see you in that one.
Yeah. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Comment on social media to let us know what you think. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram at Body Acceptance Babes. Please join our Patreon for bonus content, behind the scenes access, and more.
If you or someone you love is struggling with an eating disorder or disordered eating behavior, you can get help in Canada from the National Eating Disorder Information Centre toll-free at 1-866-633-4220 or email nedic@uhn.ca, or in the US, you can text or call the National Eating Disorder Association toll-free at 1-800-931-2237.